Have you ever walked into a room and felt completely misunderstood before you even said a word? I have, more times than I can count. If you've ever felt like you're not someone's instant favorite, or if you've ever replayed a first impression in your head wondering, did I come off wrong? If you've ever been called intimidating when all you were trying to do is be confident, or if you've ever felt like you have to tone yourself down just to make other people comfortable, this episode is for you. Welcome to this episode of Fit Fueled Female. Here's the wild part. It's not one situation. It's not one friend. It's not one job. For me, it's kind of a pattern. Recently, a friend described me as a slow burn. And I was thinking, wow, that is so accurate. Because when I look back at almost every meaningful relationship in my life, it didn't start with someone instantly loving me. Even my husband didn't like me when we first met. And I've always found that interesting because I wasn't being fake. I wasn't being mean. I was just me. So, what is it about me that takes time? I walk into rooms confident, opinionated, focused, sometimes intense. And I've realized that can be perceived as intimidating or standoffish or even egotistical. And if I'm being honest, I've wrestled with that. There was a season not long ago where I found myself holding back in new environments. I was exhausted, traveling constantly. My brain had 83 tabs open at all times. And I remember thinking if I show up depleted, people are going to misunderstand me. So instead of risking the wrong impression, I just didn't fully show up. Isn't that wild? A grown woman editing herself before anyone even asked her to. And when I finally did lean in, some connections were instant, others took time. And that's kind of the pattern. Some people connect with me right away, although that's rare. Some people need distance first, and some people just aren't sure. But here's the twist. I'm actually an open book. If you talk to me for 5 minutes, I will tell you my life story. My husband jokes that I go too deep too fast. I'd rather be real than surface level. And sometimes I wonder if that's part of it. Maybe people don't know what to do with someone who shows up fully, immediately. Someone once described me as warmly intimidating, which honestly I kind of love. I might even put it on a trucker hat because it feels true. I care deeply. I lead with heart. I love hard, but I'm not bubbly. I'm not one liner funny like my husband, who, by the way, is instantly likable. People gravitate toward him immediately. I'm more dry humor, slow reveal, depth over sparkle. And I finally accepted something. I am a slow burn. And I used to think that meant something was wrong with me. Now, I realize it just means I'm built for depth, not surface. But it doesn't always make it easy. Because no matter how confident you are, no matter how secure you try to be, we all want to be liked. The other night, I was talking about this with some girlfriends, and it was interesting because everyone had a slightly different take. One of them said, well, you've been through a lot in your life. Sometimes when you've had to be strong for a long time, you put up a wall without even realizing it. And that did make me pause, because maybe there is some truth to that. Maybe when you've navigated hard seasons, you learn to protect yourself a little faster. Maybe you lead with strength before softness. Then another friend laughed and said, no, you're just kind of what you see is what you get. And honestly, also true. I don't really know how to water myself down. And when I talked about it with my husband, he said something that really stuck with me. He said, you just don't change who you are to adapt to the people around you. And he meant it as a compliment. And I think he's right. I don't read the room and shapeshift. I don't adjust my personality to make someone more comfortable. I don't become smaller so someone else feels bigger. But then the question hit me. Should I? Is maturity adapting? Is growth softening? Is leadership adjusting your tone? Or is there something powerful about being steady in who you are, even if it takes people time to understand you? And that's the tension I've been sitting with lately. Not hurt, not offended, not insecure, just curious. Am I misunderstood because I've built walls? Or am I misunderstood because I don't perform? And I think there's a difference. The more I've sat with this, the more I've realized something. There's a difference between growth and self-erasure. Growth is learning how you land on people. Self-erasure is changing who you are so you land softer. And those are not the same thing. I can absolutely grow. I can be more aware of my tone. I can slow down. I can ask more questions before offering opinions. I can check my intensity when someone needs warmth first. That's maturity. But what I'm not going to do anymore is shrink. I'm not going to dilute my ambition. I'm not going to dim my confidence. I'm not going to pretend I'm unsure just so someone feels more comfortable. Because the truth is, the people who stay, they don't want the edited version of me. They want the real one. And every time in my life where someone didn't like me at first later became one of my closest friends, or one of my strongest team members, or my literal husband. It wasn't because I changed, it was because they got context. They got time, they got depth, they got the heart behind the edge. And that's the shift for me lately. Maybe I'm not misunderstood because I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misunderstood because I'm layered, and layers take time. And here's the part that's funny. At work, I adapt constantly. I read the room, I manage tone, I adjust delivery, I calibrate energy, I think about optics, I anticipate reactions. It's part of leadership, it's part of sales, it's part of navigating rooms where stakes are high and perception matters. I am on all the time professionally, and I'm good at it. But maybe that's exactly why in my personal life, I just don't want to perform. I don't want to scan the room and adjust. I don't want to edit every sentence. I don't want to soften ambition so it's more palatable. I don't want to be on a stage when I'm just trying to be living in a room. Maybe that's what reads as intense, is actually just someone who's tired of shape shifting. Maybe what reads as intimidating is just someone who doesn't have the energy to perform outside of the arenas that require it. And that realization changed something for me because this isn't about inability, it's about choice. I can adapt. I do adapt. I have to adapt. But I also get to have spaces where I'm just me, unfiltered, unstaged, unmanaged. And if that takes people time to warm up to, I'm okay with that. For your power move this week, I want you to notice when you start editing yourself in real time. Notice when you soften your opinion before you've even finished the sentence. Notice when you over explain something that was already clear. Notice when you apologize for something that didn't actually require an apology, and pause. Ask yourself, am I adjusting out of awareness or am I shrinking out of fear? If it's awareness, that's growth. If it's fear, hold your ground. You don't need to stand down your personality to make it more digestible. Be thoughtful, be emotionally intelligent, be self aware, but do not disappear. So, what's been fueling me lately? Oh, if I'm being honest, not much. I'm depleted, y'all. My battery has been so low. Work has been heavy, life has been loud, and I've had moments where I've thought, I don't know how much more I can keep holding. I'm literally recording this on a Saturday night. I think I wrote it earlier in the day. My week was so crazy. I am just tired. And instead of pretending I'm optimized and thriving and perfectly balanced, what's been fueling me lately is honesty. Admitting when I'm drained, admitting when I don't have it all together, admitting when I just don't want to be on, and surrounding myself with people who don't require a performance from me. People who don't need me to impress them or entertain them or lead them or fix something. People who just let me exist, who let me be quiet, who let me be layered, who don't interpret exhaustion as distance. And maybe that's the real fuel this season. Not productivity, not perfection, just presence. So if I had to sum this up, maybe being misunderstood isn't always about doing something wrong. Maybe sometimes it's about being layered. Maybe it's about being someone who leads with strength, who doesn't shapeshift easily, who doesn't perform softness just to land better. Maybe it's about depth over instant chemistry. And maybe the goal isn't to be instantly liked. Maybe the goal is to be consistently aligned, to grow without erasing yourself, to adapt without disappearing, to care deeply and still stand firmly in who you are. I am a slow burn. And you know what? I'm finally okay with that. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for allowing me into your space and allowing me to be vulnerable and still showing up week to week. I am so incredibly grateful for you and this community. As always, stay fit, stay fueled, and stay 100% true to you. I cannot wait to see you next time.